Welcome to the Gun News Review, a recap of the week's gun news. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry is leading a 17-state coalition against a New York City gun restriction, which he says threatens Second Amendment protections. New York City's permit prohibits removing any firearm from the home with two exceptions: practicing at a range or hunting. And hunting requires authorization from the city's police department. To remove a firearm from the home for any other purpose requires a separate and difficult-to-obtain carry permit. Landry and his counterparts argue that New York City did not show sufficient cause to burden citizens' gun rights in their pursuit of crime prevention and public safety. Fox News reports liberal billionaires are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars behind the Democratic Party in the upcoming midterm election. But hundreds of Democrats in this election cycle came out against the influence of America's super rich, and many progressive candidates have since followed suit. Still, they poured hundreds of millions into groups aimed at mobilizing voters and running ads against their political opponents. The NRA is pulling out all stops in helping Republicans and President Trump in the congressional midterms. In a new midterm ad on NRA TV, they're calling the president the cure to a democratic disease to make America weak.
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have a new favorite line, that Donald Trump is a symptom, not the cause. But here's the truth. Our president and all of us who believe in making America great are a cure to an ideology of elitism that looks down on those who have guns or pray to God and calls our neighbors in the heartland deplorables. A cure to an America last foreign policy that restricted the might of our military and denied our wounded heroes the care they deserve.
The group's president, Oliver North, goes on to say, "Don't let their disease make America weak again." Gun control advocates have filed suit requesting the federal government release communications with the firearms lobby, including remarks on a memo by an ATF official suggesting some regulations be eased. The Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence and the Democracy Forward Foundation seek to compel the Justice Department and the ATF to comply with the Freedom of Information Act requests they made in July. Those requests seek communications between Justice Department employees and gun rights groups, including the NRA. The liberal media was quick to denounce Kanye West's meeting with President Trump at the White House this week. One reporter asked West his thoughts about so-called gun violence.
The problem is illegal guns. Illegal guns is the problem, not legal guns. We have the right to bear arms.
Some reporters called the pre-lunch meeting bizarre. CNN's S.E. Cupp described it as just plain sad. She also suggested the president was exploiting an unwell man who's clearly not okay. A Montana state judge has upheld Missoula's 2016 gun ordinance, which required background checks on all gun sales in city limits, even between private parties. Judge Robert Deschamps' ruling on Thursday rejected an opinion from the Montana Attorney General that local governments don't have the ability to limit the sale and transfer of firearms. Deschamps said that the city is authorized by state law to prevent felons from possessing firearms and can limit the sale or transfer of firearms within city limits. A student at Long Island University was called to a mandatory meeting after he posted pictures and videos on Facebook showing him legally holding unloaded guns at an off-campus event hosted by Cabela's. Long Island University says it called the meeting with junior Annan Venegala after another student complained that he might have violent intentions. During that meeting, Venegala was asked about the photos, and he was also questioned about an essay he wrote last November for a class on war, terrorism, and justice. Sturm Ruger has issued a product safety bulletin for certain Ruger American pistols chambered in 9mm. Ruger says some Ruger American pistols may show premature wear of the locking surfaces between the slide and barrel, which, if ignored, can eventually result in a crack near the ejection port. All Ruger American pistols chambered in 9mm with serial number prefixes 860 and 862 are subject to the safety bulletin and should be inspected. Owners can sign up for a free retrofit. You're listening to Gun News Review. The mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut has signed an ordinance banning the ownership of so-called ghost guns under the threat of a $250 fine. At a signing ceremony this week, Bridgeport Police Chief A.J. Perez held up an 80% finished AR lower and then a finished AR-15.
It's a piece of metal that you can easily buy in the market. But if you can get this, you can make this. Okay? And this is a real weapon. This weapon will discharge anywhere from 50 to 30 rounds at a time. You can make it fully automatic, and what's unique about this weapon is that there's no markings whatsoever. Usually when you buy something like this, it'll have a serial number, which can be traced, who made it, who this gun belongs to. This gun belongs to no one. This is a ghost gun.
Perez says his agency has recovered at least 7 such guns this year. He failed to mention that manufacturing guns for personal use is perfectly legal under federal and state law, unless you can't legally own a gun. U.S. Special Operations Command has come up with a plan to possibly have Russian and other foreign-designed weapons manufactured in the U.S. The reason is that many combatants are using Russian or Soviet weapons, and when Special Operations Forces provide some of the groups with guns, they have to find Russian hardware through the global arms market. SOCOM wants American companies to explore whether it's feasible to reverse engineer or re-engineer and domestically produce several different types of foreign arms. Hollywood actress Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't too happy this week after she says Fox News portrayed her as a hypocrite. A Fox article reported that she uses firearms in her upcoming Halloween movie while denouncing gun ownership. Curtis called the article nonsense, saying she does support a ban on assault weapons and bump stocks, but she says she fully supports the Second Amendment and has no problem with people owning firearms if they have been trained, licensed, with a background check that's been conducted. The TSA posted their weekly report of weapons, explosives, and other prohibited items found in carry-on bags for the last week of September. Across the nation, TSA agents found 91 firearms in carry-on bags, 81 were loaded, and 38 had a round chambered. In Israel, over 2,800 civilians have applied for a firearms permit since the public security minister this year eased the criteria. That's a 183% increase compared to the same period last year, but still, those numbers are far lower than the ministry's initial estimates that a change in criteria would lead to 35,000 to 40,000 requests. A shooting range selfie has earned a lifetime ban for 2 men at a Houston gun range. The pair were at the firing line, clowning around with a handgun. One of the men took a selfie while holding the gun, then pointed it at his friend. He was getting ready to take another selfie when a range officer saw what was going down. The safety officer quickly intervened, putting his hand on the gun to point it in a safe direction, and then immediately escorted the pair out of the facility. Video surveillance of the incident has gone viral. You've been listening to Gun News Review, comprehensive and concise.